Hi everyone. So this is a video topic I've wanted to do for a long time, and I know it seems like I'm kind of coming in late on this discussion, but I really wanted to wait until the sequel trilogy was over to talk about this. And that subject is Rey in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, is she a Mary Sue? So I actually never heard of this term Mary Sue before, so I had to kind of look into what in the world they were talking about. So if you're not familiar with the expression Mary Sue, here is a definition from Oxford. It is a type of female character who is depicted as unrealistically lacking in flaws or weaknesses. Here's another one from Wikipedia that I think also is a good description. Mary Sue is a generic name for a fictional character who is so competent and perfect that this appears absurd even in the context of the fictional setting. Mary Sues are often an author's self-insertion or wish fulfillment. So in the original trilogy, no one ever accused Princess Leia of being a Mary Sue. In all three movies she appears in, she gets captured. The situations in which she's captured in every movie are believable, and they don't make her look weak, but they do show her as being vulnerable. And Mary Sues are never portrayed as being vulnerable. Padme in the prequel trilogy was shown as having a big weakness, and that weakness was her love for Anakin. So no one accused her of being a Mary Sue. She definitely didn't fit the type. But you go to the sequel trilogy, suddenly your female lead, Rey, is having this label slapped on her. Now, is it deserving? Is she a character that has flaws or weaknesses? Is she part of some sort of wish fulfillment on behalf of J.J. Abrams? Now, I'm going to focus mainly on The Force Awakens here. A couple of reasons for that. First of all, the whole discussion about her being Mary Sue came out right with Force Awakens. A lot of the arguments substantiating that she is a Mary Sue, even to this day, come out of Force Awakens. So the criticism as to why she fits the Mary Sue usually has to do with how powerful she seems to be, both in the Force and with her native talents. Let's take a look at what some of those abilities are. First time we ever see her in action, she demonstrates excellent hand-to-hand combat skills and defeats several men who are trying to rob her of BB-8. She's seen as very adept in surviving in a wasteland. She has piloting abilities despite having never left Jakku, or at least we're under the impression she's never left it. She flies the Millennium Falcon with excellent skill. She also demonstrates excellent mechanical abilities, her understanding of how the Falcon works and what some of its problems are and how to make it a better ship, as well as how to fix a problem when a problem comes up. Undoubtedly, she had never been in a fight with TIE fighters before, and yet she and Finn, mostly due to her piloting, are able to not only survive but defeat the two TIE fighters. She can speak Wookiee despite the fact we have no indication she's ever met a Wookiee before. And then the main thing is just how quickly she ramps up in the Force. At the beginning of the movie, she thinks the Force is fiction. By the end of the movie, she's winning a lightsaber duel and using Jedi mind trick. All that stands for a pretty solid argument that she's a Mary Sue. But actually, I never felt that she was a Mary Sue. Now, and I'm going to explain why, despite the fact that we see her use all these amazing abilities, all these amazing skills, I say that she is still a character who has flaws and weaknesses. So what are her flaws? Okay, before answering that question, I want to examine real quick, what is it about a character that makes a character interesting? And what is it about a story that makes a story interesting? Stories are interesting, they're fascinating, they're entertaining because they're driven off some sort of conflict. Now, the idea of conflict is very broad. Any movie of any genre you're going to watch is going to have constant conflict going through it. That doesn't mean there's going to be action scenes. Conflict is one thing versus another, and it could be something as simple as a person tries to open a door, but the door is stuck. There is conflict between the person and the door. Now, that's not something you want to make a movie about, but that could be really good in a scene where someone's trying to escape an axe murder and suddenly the door is stuck. Or how about a romantic comedy where the boyfriend is about to try to sweep the girl of his dreams off her feet and he's going to barge into a room and keep her from running off, but the door gets stuck and she's about to get on a plane or something. And you get the idea. Conflict can be person versus person. It can be person versus nature. It can be person versus supernatural force if you're getting into something like science fiction or fantasy. It could be person versus object. It could be relationship conflict, political conflict. Just anything that puts a character in the story at odds with something or someone else. So the key thing about having conflict is that if a character has no flaws, there's either no conflict or very minimal, very low stakes conflict. Establishing that, we can now go back and have the conversation about, is Rey Mary Sue? When it comes to action, Rey is exceptional. She doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. So it's understandable, given how quickly she ramps up in the Force and how good she is in many combat situations, that people watching the movie would be worried that by episode 8, she'd be so much more powerful than everyone that none of the action would have any sense of real conflict. But Rey's conflict comes from within. And this is why I do not see her character as a Mary Sue. Despite her power, she's uncertain about herself. She's uncertain about her place in the galaxy, and she lives with this inner longing for a family that she never knew, that she longs to connect with, and yet has no idea what's happened to her. She has no true understanding of self-identity. Her main motivations are loneliness and fear. So these are character flaws and weaknesses. Now you could say, yeah, but this is a Star Wars movie. This is not a human drama, so the action part matters more. Well, I agree that Star Wars is largely driven by its action and science fiction conflict, and that's a big appeal of it, but the character arcs are always driven by something more. When I watched Force Awakens, I found the fact that Rey was so powerful actually made her character more interesting. That told me there was a mystery behind her. How come she can do all these things that other Jedi before had not been able to do without all this training? There must be a story reason, and that reason intrigued me. When I saw the movie and I saw her power, it created a sense of mystery. And that is a really big deal. I remember lots of my friends who were talking about, what does this mean? They weren't complaining that she could get into a lightsaber fight in the first movie. They wanted to know, what did it mean that she could? Who were her parents? Who is she? And in light of the inner conflict she felt, in light of the fact this mystery was a big part of why she did not feel whole, just didn't make her seem like a Mary Sue to me. Now, let's fast forward a little bit to episode 9. I do agree with the sentiment that in the end, through the sequel trilogy, Rey's character failed to be an interesting character. I would not say she's a Mary Sue. I would just simply say she ended up being, well, a mess of a character. But then the whole trilogy ended up being messed by the end. There was no overarching plan for Rey's story arc, but there was also no overarching plan for the series. So watching episode 7, personally, I was anticipating that Abrams had already planned some stuff out, that Kathleen Kennedy had this outline of what the series was going to be, and it was going to be very well orchestrated. However, when Rian Johnson got into episode 8 and basically threw out what Abrams had done, and then vice versa when Abrams comes back in episode 9 and throws out episode 8, you just pretty much destroyed the whole story. There's no sense of consistency, so her arc really does go nowhere. I do believe you could take episode 7 as it stands and then make a very interesting and compelling story finish out with Rey. However, that is not what we got. So, do I agree that Rey is a disappointing character? Yes. But I thought the way Rey was set up in episode 7 was excellent. I was very interested in her character, and I think it could have gone some amazing places. I do not see, I would argue again that she does not fit what a Mary Sue is, because we see that she has personal conflicts, that she has personal flaws and personal weaknesses, even if she doesn't have the weaknesses in the Force. And keeping in mind, in Star Wars, having personal flaws is a big deal. Anakin was very powerful. When they first met him, at 9 years old, he could already do pod racing, which is something human beings weren't even supposed to be able to do. And he had no knowledge of what the Force really even was. But he turns into Darth Vader and ends up just totally messing up the Jedi because he had massive character flaws. So raw power and personal traits are completely unrelated. Anyway, that's my thoughts and feelings on that. Probably do another video where I explore this a little more, because I know I'm going to get a lot of rebuttals. A lot of people are not going to be happy about what I said, but, well, there you have it. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.